So with the permission of respected Honorable Chairman, uh, Director Maulvi sir, Administrator Dr. M.F. Ansari sir, then Principal Feroz sir. So shall we start the session?
Yes, please, you can start now.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon to one and all. So welcome to today's webinar on Future of Leadership and Technology. Before we get started, I would like to go over few things about this webinar. The participants of this webinar are from 17 different countries such as US, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and so on. And there are 25 Indian states have participated in this event and 5 union territories. So we heartily thank all the participants who have registered. The total number of participants for this event is 1,175. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call Shri Muhammad Shafi sir to welcome the gathering. Shafi sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So good afternoon, everyone. So I am supremely delighted to welcome today's galaxy of guests. It's my honor to welcome the renowned businessman, a well-known social worker. He is none other than the president of Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli, Alhaj MC Saunur sir. I welcome you, sir, for this international webinar. I welcome all the office bearers, education board members of Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli. I welcome today's resource person, an alumni of this institution, a renowned trainer from Sweden, Shri PRAVEEN JOSHI sir. I welcome the principal, Nehru BBA and BCA Center, Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir. I welcome Dr. M.F. Ansari, Administrator of Nehru College Hubli. I welcome Shri Syed Feroz sir, the principal of Nehru College Hubli. I welcome Dr. M.S. Yatnati sir, the HOD of his department and the NAC coordinator. I welcome Dr. S.M. Chillur sir, HOD English department and IQSC coordinator. I welcome the organizing secretary, Shri Zakir Hussain Bepari sir, and the behalf of IQSC, I welcome all the participants who are attending this international webinar. Thank you, Zakir sir, for giving me an opportunity to welcome today's guest. Over to you, Zakir sir.
Thank you, sir. I would heartily thank you for your welcome speech. So now I request the principal Nehru Degree College, Professor Syed Feroz sir, to please introduce our college.
Thank
Professor
you, Zakir.
Feroz sir.
Thank you, Zakir. Honorable President of Anjuman-e-Islam, Ali Janab Alhaj MC Saunur Sahab, members of office bearers of Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli, members of Education Board Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli, chief guest and the speaker of today's webinar, and also happens to be the alumnus of our esteemed institution, Shri PRAVEEN JOSHI Sahab, Strategy and Portfolio Management Professional, Stockholm, Sweden. Administrator and my mentor, Major Dr. M.F. Ansari Sahab, Director for BBA, BCA and PG Center, M.M. Maulvi, colleagues from BBA, BCA and PG Center, NAC Coordinator, Dr. M.S. Etnati, Chairman of IQAC, Dr. S.M. Chillur, esteemed colleagues, delegates, participants, viewers, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to say a few words about my esteemed institution. Our esteemed institution is run by the prestigious and premier organization of Muslim community of Hubli city, which is designated as Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli. Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli is established in the year 1903 with a vision of service unto humanity by the then Nawab of Saunur, Sardar Mehboob Ali Khan. Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli is running 22 educational institutions, shopping complexes, healthcare centers, and in educational institution, we impart quality education from primary to PG. which will justify the vision of founding fathers of our management. As a testimony to the fact, on the occasion of centenary year celebration of Anjuman Islam Hubli, the then President, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, has visited our esteemed institution in 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, at present, we have a vibrant, enthusiastic, dynamic management led by Janab Muhammad Yusuf Saunur Sahab, who happens to be the alumnus of this institution. He and his team encourage student-centric programs in our college. Nehru Arts, Science, Commerce, BBA, BCA, and PG Center was established in the year 1965 and has celebrated a Golden Jubilee year in 2015 and 16. Has important quality education for overall development of the community. BBA, BCA, and 3 PG courses were chipped in 1990. We got through 3 cycles of NAC and have been awarded with A grade successively in all the 3 cycles. From the past 10 years, the college has organized around 50 international, national, state level, and university level being funded by the funding bodies. Across that, we are inaugurating the webinar and have a dynamic student of this institutional and international reputation. With this note, once again, I, on behalf of the management staff and the students, would like to welcome the speaker of today's webinar and also wish all the very best to the organizers. With this note, I conclude. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka. Over to Zakir.
Thank you, sir. So, wonderful introduction of our college. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today, to introduce the guest of today's webinar, that Shri PRAVEEN JOSHI, sir. So it is my duty to have this great opportunity in my hand that I can introduce one of the prestigious student alumni of this institution. Ladies and gentlemen, we are supremely happy to have our alumni and a renowned personality as the resource person of today's webinar, Shri PRAVEEN V. Joshi, sir. PRAVEEN Joshi has about 20 years of professional experience from various global positions across the banking and financial services, telecom, ICT, global enterprises, IT, digital transformation services. Presently, sir is providing his services to as a strategic to portfolio for Ericsson, with end-to-end responsibility of IT, portfolio, governance, and compliance. So he's a strong person with having an experience of managing the C-suites and executive leadership expectations through strategic management and global leadership, managing director and virtual team across the world. He has a special knowledge and experience of governance, security, and compliance aspects, including work counseling, trade compliance, security frameworks, privacy regulations, and so on. Sir has an experience of digital product portfolio strategy to define the portfolio structures, governance of investment decision and transformation using automation, AI, ML, cognitive tools, and cloud performance. Sir has been a part of a Noble Week conference, Your Planet, Our Planet in 2016, which is held in Sweden, and he has represented India in Sweden. So he's a strong believer, strong and high ethical value and principle, with most flexible and taking responsibilities decision for the benefit of an organization. When I interacted with Sir, it is my personal experience that he's a down-to-earth person, right? Having a very good ethics and values within him. Sir, with this small and brief introduction, I would like to welcome our guest. I request the participants, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box in your Zoom or YouTube control panel. So I will bring them up during the presentation, after the presentation, and we also have a time for question and answer session for each and everyone. So now I hand over the mic to our presenter Shri PRAVEEN Joshi sir to please proceed further.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure and a great honor to be part of this webinar, which is very good in terms of organizing and making us virtually connected. I've been far away, but feels like I'm at home, and especially in our prestigious institute back in the days 20 years ago, which I used to enjoy a lot. And that being said, I would like to share some of my experience in the last 2 decades that I have gained right from my institute. And what is world without communication? And the organization that I belong to is something that is serving over 145 years of enabling communication so that we can talk. This picture especially reminds me, it is very close to my heart, because when I was a kid, back in the village called Lakshmeshwar, or even in Hubli, I used to visit my parents, who were closely associated with Indian Telecom because they were the employees. That's why almost I can say telecom is in my blood. And when we looked into this picture, I remember that my mother used to be on the switchboard, being able to connect different trunk calls that were made using, you didn't have the cell phones those days. Now I'm talking about the kids, those who are born in 80s and before, they would know the importance of a telephone call and how it is important to be answered. And this is a switchboard that at that point in time, I had no clue. I had no idea that I would be working for such a prestigious company and contributing my skills and competence. And I'm very honored to be part of this great organization, which is serving the world with a huge contribution of connecting people across the world. To move on, I would like to quickly walk you through some of the journeys and great contributions that Ericsson has done and how we will be able to make use of this. For example, I can give you some of the interesting quotes. In 1956, I don't think I was even born. And at that point in time, the first mobile telephone that was launched and made operated, that was weighing around 40 kilos. So you can imagine how that has changed to be less than 400 grams in today's hands, like which we are making use of this webinar via connecting different digital tools that we have on hand. If we progress further in the 90s, late 90s, another major invention that was done was with Bluetooth that changed the entire wireless connectivity. And it was Ericsson which introduced this. The term Bluetooth comes from a Swedish word called Bluetand. And Bluetand is because of the last name of an inventor who was part of this invention. And that is how it has been identified to be a Bluetooth. And late, you all have seen, I think majority of this population has seen the emergence of mobile broadband. That has changed the way we communicate, we are interacting, the way we learn, in fact, and also how we are seeing the future. And that is why a leadership and the technology, that evolution of the leadership and technology together is becoming more and more critical. How we adapt ourselves, I've put together some interesting and important information so that we will be able to make use of it in our daily lives. And keep in mind, my friends and colleagues and existing leaders or future leaders, leadership is just not in the corporate. Let's talk about a little bit more about Ericsson, and I would like to open one of the interesting things. Maybe the pictures show much better, and pictures are better than the words, but I would like to take a moment to quickly show you one of the interesting videos about what Ericsson is all about and how it is going to help us with the future.
Technology stands ready to unlock a wave of new values. We're talking operating rooms connected across oceans, trucks communicating to increase efficiency, and factory floors going fully digital. These waste reduced, accidents dramatically decrease, and remarkable new business models come to life. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To make this a reality, we're on a quest to make technology easy to use, adopt, and scale. To build an ecosystem together with our customers where change is easy, where standards are global, and where the full value of connectivity can be realized faster than ever. Getting to easy won't be easy, but we're determined to lead the way, move fast, knock down barriers, and to cut through complexity. Join us.
Thank you. I think that was one of the quick snippet of what we are delivering in terms of the connectivity. Let me connections. Continue to hear me.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I will bring the slides up again. Okay. There we go. Maybe I need to move this out. Okay. Then, as you saw where Ericsson is contributing, and I will share this material, I think Zakir sir will share this material with you all later, but let's dive into the main mindset change. What does future leadership really mean? How we all should be able to change a mindset? First of all, for leadership, the current team or the location where you are in is not going to be the case anymore. For leaders, your playground is global. When we say global, it comes with a lot of challenges, new challenges that we have never come across. The challenges spans across the world that comprises of various languages. Language is the means of communication that you can interact with. If you are not equipped to be able to translate, understand, and communicate in the local language or a common language that both the parties understand, it is going to be a very difficult journey to be in the leadership. And you will not be able to even share a simple exchange of ideas if you're not talking the same language. Second important aspect being the culture. Culture plays a very vital role. We all come from a very diverse cultural background and belief systems. That will have a lot of impact on how one should understand the cultural belief and also the languages that you need to use in order to communicate, how you frame sentences, how you put the communication in the written form or oral form across is very, very important. That will be the critical point of success or failure. Then changing the mindset, because always we have a mindset saying that we as leaders should be served. No, that is not going to be the case anymore. Already today, who would you want to work for if you're not being respected? If you are not being given an opportunity, what you need to deserve? That is exactly what the mindset should change. It's important that not to expect to be served on a platter always. You should be humble. You should be very much working, joining hands together. And that is our next point, which I think is changing of the mindset towards becoming a chef, not just a chief. If you act to be just a chief, that will not build the team. That will break the team. Rather, let's focus on becoming the chef. Chef, you all understand, that's the person who brings all different ingredients and makes your, like, just different ingredients combined together in a certain quantity, quality, going through a process of cooking. That is what makes the food so tasty, which we cherish, which we gain energy from. Imagine if that is not the one that you want to be, then you will not be able to lead your people or your team. Next is the enablement and empowerment. If you're not respecting your team, could I request someone to mute the participants? Thank you. Enable and empower, ensure the team is equipped, and especially if you are not letting your team and your people to take right decisions at the right level of integrity, and also to the benefit of the organization or any team, then you're not empowering them enough. That is very important, something that I have been experiencing, and most of the leaders that I will go through in the coming slides have given me different level of opportunities to take right decisions at the right time. And last but not the least, empathy. If one is not empathetic in terms of managing the leadership or team, then definitely it's a waste of energy for everyone, and it's not wise use of time, which is precious. Keeping in mind, I would like to reiterate, as a leader, especially for present and future, your playground is global. Definitely serve to be served in the right way. Try to be a chef. If you're not perfect, that's fine. At least try to be one. Empowering and enabling your team and your people is very critical success factor. And definitely be empathetic. Then let's start looking into the key skills. What are the key skills that you may have, like as a leader? Lot of skills, potential, tactics, both at a strategic, functional, and techno-functional levels. But let's look at some of the key skills that why it is going to be very important. Coaching. You don't expect everyone to be perfect from day one. If you're expecting your team, your new hires, your students out of the college to take on very interesting jobs to be perfect on day one, then you are not a leader. You are just expecting someone to do the job for you. No. Coaching is very important criteria. It's number one. And also coaching expands into teaching the technicality, of course. A lot of the new talent will have a technical knowledge, but then how to make use of it tactically is also very crucial. And being just technically sound doesn't make sense, because for business to function, for corporates to work, for nations to run and develop, they need to be techno-functional. What is the use of a technology if it is not functional enough? And that is the knowledge. That's the key that you should be focusing on when you are coaching your teams. futurist. Who can be a leader without knowing or at least seeing the foreseeable future? And definitely you need to manage the present, but don't get dwelled into the present so much that you start forgetting to think of the future. And giving a direction, giving a right direction is very, very important. And that depends on how futuristic you are. Then we come to the point we all know, including our kids today, right? They are very smart. Don't think we are the only smart in the room. Give them all the respect for their knowledge, because tech teenagers are the one who will be the future leaders, and have all the respect for their technological skills, advancement that technology has helped them to explore. At the same time, we need to translate. What do you mean by translate? Translation is purely translating from one form of communication to the another form of communication. And it is becoming very critical, as I mentioned, about the global footprint in terms of language, culture. You as a leader, you should be able to have a say, have a training, have a coaching, and also act as a translator if there are disparities, conflicts of interest, challenges that your team is facing working with the different teams or different cultural background, persons from different units, persons from different language, creed, or a style that they have developed, they have grown, and how they have been acting as a part of the team. That is very, very important for leaders to understand and then adapt accordingly. And then comes the most important challenge. When we make decisions, majority of the times, if you have enough information on hand, then you should be very cautious about information overload. But the trick is, how do you balance your emotions versus the intelligence? Because most of the times you will be working with very intelligent people with a very high IQ, much more higher than yourself, but they would need to be helped, and that intelligence should meet the emotional quotient that you may have developed over the years, coming and facing a lot of different situations that the new technical experts may have not faced. And being strong in terms of your mindset is very, very critical. That is where you will be able to see the ups and downs of the socioeconomic changes or even the political challenges that you would have to enter if you are serving a global platter. Then we come to the interesting topic that will bring us to the, how does the leadership and technology needs to join hands? This is something that I prepared based on my experience. If you are a leader and if you're not logical enough, people won't believe you. Because even the kid, you need to have a logic. If you have to tell your 4-year-old or 5-year-old what, if they need to do something, you need to be more logical. Second and most critical thing that I personally believe is ethical practices. Maybe you can win 1 or 2 deals. You can make yourself and your team look good with some practices that are not ethical enough, but that is not going to be long lasting. You cannot completely be like confident of succeeding with those approaches. That's why ethical practices are really important. And if you're not following it, be prepared, not just for yourself, but for your entire organization to face the consequences. Adaptability. Adaptability is very critical for a leader because situations are not all the same. There is no one size fits all kind of a setup. At the same time, you need to be dependable. Your team can rely on you. You should be able to understand and both the feelings, the situations, and balance between the upper management like demands or even the pressure at times, the challenging targets. At the same time, understand the capacity, the ability of your team to be able to deliver. Where do you empower them is the next thing, not just being dependable, but also empowering them. When your team is giving your best, when your organization, your people are dedicating their efforts, knowledge, and their competence to you, there is no leadership without being a reward and recognized. That's what keeps each one of us moving, giving our best, being motivated to do more. And at the end of the day, if your team comes to you with a problem, don't try to push them back. Never, ever try to push them back. Maybe you may not have a solution. You may not have the answer for everything. Try to work it out with your team, with your people. And that is when you are teaching yourself something new that your team might be knowing, or your team is learning from you based on your past experience, that how we can change a challenge into a solution-oriented approach. At the end of the day, while practicing all of these, don't forget we are all humans. We have emotions which are higher than the intelligence. Be able to balance the different circumstances, especially during the pandemic, due to COVID-19 that we all are facing. Different countries have gone through the different challenges. It has made us realize how important is human life over anything in and around the world. And at the end of the day, if you as a leader are not able to trust your team, you don't give them the flexibility, and you don't try to be human, then you're not a leader. You should just look for something else. And I don't take it very lightly. If you're not treating your team with respect, then I think you should be prepared to expect the same from the team, from anyone. It starts at home, and you should be respectful for your own family members, your spouses, your kids, your parents, and that is human. That is leadership. That's something that you can practice anywhere and everywhere. And definitely inclusiveness, because we have different countries and having a different cultural backgrounds. We have some challenges that I've seen in the past, and getting exposed to the global footprint, there are different challenges of inclusiveness. You could take inclusiveness when it comes to the different cultural backgrounds, the type of male-female ratio that you're trying to balance, and also right from the home, there could be differences. No, treat both your girl child and boy equally. They deserve, they may be having a different gender, but it doesn't mean that they are not capable enough. Everyone is capable. They can think, they can act, they can outsmart you. So try to be inclusive, no matter what, everywhere, not just in the corporates. And that right starts at home, not outside. Be supportive of it, and don't question it. And passion. Passion is something that builds the empires. If you're not passionate enough about anything that you're doing, that's not going to take you anywhere. And these leadership skills that I feel are really important are just the things, some of the things that you can practice, you can preach, and you can continue to evolve continuously, even with technology. Let us see how they go hand in hand with the technology. Technology is something that transforms. Maybe we were doing a manual work, and then the mechanical revolution helped us to do a very laborious, heavyweight work with the machines. Machines could take all the load, but then you need to be logical enough what kind of machines that you want to build and how you need to be making it more efficient. If the machines that you're building are not efficient enough, that has led to global warming. We have a lot of carbon footprint issues, a lot of other economical, environmental, and also socio demographic issues that are leading to different challenges that we may have not faced before. So technology is good if it is for the betterment of the society, not good if it is going to put us in trouble in the long run that we don't foresee. And cost effectiveness. I think I would like to give you a quote of one of my experience in the past. We were building a product for investment bankers, and I was the global product manager then. We used to have different deals. Morgan Stanley was one of my major deals, which we sold them as a platform for a $7 million USD recurring revenue back in 2016. And sorry, 2006. And at that point in time, I came across exactly opposite corner of the world. And Morgan Stanley was my US client, one of the major clients. And when we visited Bank of China, I think the pricing of the product was $900 per user per month. And there you could get almost everything, every kind of information that you as an investment banker would need to know around the world. That was my product delivery. And that is what the company that I used to work for, Thomson, and now it is named as Thomson Reuters, and it's Refinitiv. So it has gone through a lot of changes. But at that point in time, I was responsible for Thomson One platform. And that Thomson One platform gave me so much of experience, learnings, in terms of how cost effectiveness is really key to success. Because when we were visiting Bank of China, the first question that they asked is it available in Chinese language? They used heavily Mandarin. And then that is when I understood you cannot just take a product that was built for a different country, different language, different geographical location, and try to sell it. But we had our marketing study done. Before we entered, we did launch the product in different languages that were globally used. But the challenge was not that just the language. The challenge was also how they perceive the cost. And that is where the volume game comes in. If you pursue to be a product manager or trying to have your own company, keep in mind the different power of the population. And the person from the other side of the table, he was the CTO for Bank of China, that person asked me, okay, we are ready to sign the deal, but can you sell or can we close the deal for $30? Can you imagine that? $30, that is the offer that I'm getting for a price or a selling price that we give even with the best of the discounts if you're signing up for volume, $900 USD per user per month. And that I need to decide on the table to sell it for $30. Then I didn't have a capacity to decide that. I had to contact my CIO and my CTO and the head of the products at that point in time to decide, okay, what are we getting into? I felt a little bit offended at that point in time. Why is this person asking? With such a, it's not like an open market or flea market that you would go and bargain like that. And then he put on the table, I didn't react, I would have reacted, but the learning was someone told me, patience is the virtue. You need to be patient when you're dealing with anyone. And that's the key for any leadership. But then the person puts on the table, we are going to buy 50,000 users per month basis. That's a game changer. It's not always the math. It's the end result that matters. That led me to uptick a revenue for my product, even much more than I ever expected in 1 year. That gave me a straight 200+ revenue increase, and 200% margin increase is huge. That is why when you're talking about the products and technology, they should be cost effective. And that helps us in tapping the new opportunities, how we are going to leverage, optimize, grow to yield higher benefits. If your technology is not helping, then you're not stepping in the right direction. Technology can make or break corporates now. And if your organization is not quick enough in adapting to that, or not smart enough in making it useful, cost effective, based on the target markets that you're approaching, you will never see joining hands between the leadership and technology. And that is just one of the mindsets. But also be aware, we have seen so many examples of the companies that we used to feel that, okay, they are going to grow, they will be the companies that we will work for. They are no longer there because they have not advanced themselves. They have not adapted to the transformation. And earlier, we used to have a technical or technology transformation into different streams. But let's look into what the next decade is going to bring us in terms of the technology. Some of the reflections before we move into the technology, I would like to summarize with these reflections of my own, and then we will dive into the later sessions. Leadership, as I mentioned, I personally feel that it's always influenced by your personality, the style, and the situation. Situation is what makes you change your personality, adapt to it, and style is what gives you a way into the future. If you don't tweak them, train them, and get influenced by it, you will be the outdated model, I would say. So pull up your socks, start getting in that direction if you want to be one of the leaders. And I'm not referring to just being a corporate leader. Leader can be anywhere. Then comes higher you grow in the organization. Your trust circle is very, very important. First of all, you should trust your team. Maybe there could be different levels of trust factors, but you should trust. If you're high up in the position, in the executive leadership roles, you should have your own trust circle. And that need to change, need to adapt. And this is my own saying, and I think majority of the erudites also have said this. It's not the corporates that make you leaders, rather it's opposite. It's the leadership, it's your contribution, not just leaders' contribution. Each one of you build corporates, and they are just a result of your efforts, not the vice versa. And every time I've been thinking like, okay, what is the right time to start leading? There is no perfect timing. Start as early as possible, right today, right now. Because if you don't take a lead about your career and practice leadership in every walk of life, everywhere, even at home, you will not be able to gain the leadership skills. You will not be able to get out of the best of your team, yourself, and the situation or the technology that you have around you and different assets that you utilize is not going to give you any major results or benefits, and definitely not sense of satisfaction that you could sleep happily at the end of the day. And something that I personally believe in, leadership is not just about title or position, and definitely not bossing over others. Those are gone. If you have that mindset, please stop it immediately. Otherwise, you're going to not ruin your reputation, but also you're going to ruin your team. Your team will disperse. They will not feel happy and contented to work with you. Just they will walk out. They will go to the future leaders who treat them with respect. That is why, as I said, and this I remember from Dr. Maulvi sir's lectures, leadership is an art, and it should be adapted to the audience, the situation, and the time. Every time, you need to adapt. And that's an art that you should be able to play as a leader that is good for the organization. Then I bring some of the practical experiences that I have seen, where I have seen in the last 2 decades, the true leadership. Maybe I will not go through all, but then back in 1998, I was asked to take a sergeant role for a troop of 200 plus cadets. And that was done with a push saying that, okay, try to lead. If you fail, then Shri N.S. Patil sir, who was our COI commander, did say that, don't worry about failures, just try to lead. You will learn on the go. And if you fail, you will know you're smart enough how to correct yourself. That changed my mindset, and that changed my confidence levels. And that is how I could lead the troop for over 3 years without change. And not many sergeants have continued to sustain like that, because it's a tough journey. Then comes game changer for me. Why I have a very close association and a very, I could say it in this way. Whatever I am today, in whatever position, the capacity, the state of life that I'm leading, it wouldn't have been possible if the second important leader that I have come across, Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir. It's an interesting story. I was focusing too much on my interest of cricket. I wanted to be something that caters to the organization like Army or Air Force, and things didn't go in the right direction. Of course, I was lazy enough not to study well. I didn't score much in all the subjects. But then when my father took me out of the institute that I was studying and approached the prestigious institute, Nehru College, then I came across Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir. We were in the admission process, and that is when Maulvi sir told me, looking at the results, said, we have started a new branch of business administration, BBA. There is a potential in you. And he was the first one to see the potential. I was not a leader then. I was just a normal student as anyone could be, or even underperforming student. I did not have like high scores after my 12th grade. And that is when I got my first opportunity to see where you cannot imagine. In 1999, I could not imagine that I could do that. First thing that Maulvi sir put in me is confidence. And that he did it with not just me, but entire school, entire college, entire student community. And he continues to deliver his best of the services. That's one way of leadership. And I have very high regards for each and every professor and teachers and lecturers and all the contributors, the staff that I have come across, because they helped us, each one of us, to be what we are today. And if you wouldn't have given me that opportunity, maybe I wouldn't have been here. Then I had a chance. I definitely excelled in terms of the graduation. I changed my focus, shifted my mindset to gain importance on the studies, achieved good scores, and made the institution proud, my parents proud, and helped different associations also to learn from whatever learnings I had due to the projects that I did in different organizations. But second important milestone was the MBA. And Janakiraman sir told me, you should be futuristic. You should not think of only now. Don't think of just the current job that you would be getting after your MBA. You should be thinking of the future. You should be the one planning to create jobs, at least contributing. If not through your own company, you can channelize the economy in that direction. That is when I got my first opportunity. And I think most of us have gone through this challenge. In 2002 or early 2000s, there was a recession. I remember a phase where we used to visit every company. It was not the internet of the world at that point in time. We had to print our resumes, CVs, and knock at every company's gates physically, not virtually, physically. We were not let in. We were like a bunch of 6 or 7 from our team, like staying in Bangalore, visiting almost every company every day, maybe with some food, not food, because we didn't want to put pressure on our parents. And that is when I got my first opportunity. And that was also a bit of a funny story I would like to share quickly. We were not having any confidence that we will gain, but then at some point in time, we were called for an interview, or it was like more a written test. A friend of mine got it through his contact. And this is very important that I would like to bring it to your notice. If you have a job, if you have a stable income, don't forget, if you have an opportunity that you have come across in your company or in your circle that you would like to share with a potential candidate, please take some time. Please take a moment to share about that opportunity. If these ends wouldn't have met, I wouldn't have got my first opportunity. What that person who was already working in the company called Thomson at that point in time, they sent information to us. I think in the 2004, we already had at least like access to cell phones. And that is when you had option. Okay, there is a walk-in interviews going on. Why don't you guys come and give it a try? And that is when I learned something. That information, if you wouldn't have reached us in time, we wouldn't have been able to go there. But now I think things have changed. You have a lot of information floating around. It's more opportunities, no recession, but then you need to find the right job. But finding a right job is not something easy, especially for students who are just out of the college. There could be high expectations from both the sides. The companies are expecting you to be extraordinary, or you are expecting yourself to land in a very senior position or a title with a high paying jobs. That's not always the case. You need to start somewhere. That's why I would like to share personal experience. When I met my first hiring manager, Madhvi Reddy, she asked me, you're an MBA, you have very good scores, and you would be given a research analyst position, but don't think that this is only for MBAs. We also have given this position for other graduates. And if you have that kind of a mindset, maybe this job is not for you. I had to take a pause in that interview and say that I don't have a problem taking up this job, but then I said myself, maybe in that interview, I still remember, I told them, maybe others may not have the MBAs or higher education, but I have the skill to lead the team. I will be able to lead this team. And that is when, within 1 year, I continuously started preparing and was able to take on the team leader position. And that opportunity was given by Abhishek Bhattacharya. And he was a senior manager for security and operations team of Thomson. And there were, I didn't have a confidence. I didn't have like an idea that I would get it, because there were more than 60 applicants. I was the only one who was in the final 5 and final 3, and only one with less than 1 year of experience. I could not believe that I would get that job. Others who were there over a decade, like 10, 12, 15 years of experience, applying for that position. It was a very challenging new team that I had to build from over 4 analysts to, when I left the team, it was 40 analysts. Quickly going forward, then I came to a point that, okay, maybe I need to, it was a night shift. It used to be a bit challenging. I took a toll on my health. And then we had a US market. So you can imagine, most of you may have gone through this phase. And that is when I said, okay, maybe I need to look for opportunities. I actually applied and decided to leave. And irony was that I had to serve Thomson for longer. I was serving a notice period, and I was deciding to leave and join another analytical firm, which was then very famous in terms of the investment banking. And during the last, I think I had 2 weeks to complete my tenure at Thomson. That is when it was Eric Leonard, who was the vice president and head of products portfolio at that point in time, who visited India. He's based out of Boston, at least at that point in time, he was based out of there. And this is where I would like to bring another experience of how questions, an intelligent question can land you a job. Maybe it looks funny and sound impractical, but Eric was organizing an event for everyone. I think it was like over 4,000 employees of Thomson. And I had asked a question about a product. And then I don't know what made him think, but then immediately after that question, he could answer, he could partially answer. I was not very happy with that answer, but I still asked. It didn't matter. I would have just stopped and kept quiet and said that, okay, anyways, I'm leaving this company. How does it matter to me? But I saw something in that product that was a fault that could have been changed, because we have been on the other side of the table preparing content, working for that product, but not on the other side of the selling. And that is what maybe he liked. He said, can we meet after the session? And I waited for him. For my surprise, he asked me, and my manager had told that, okay, he is leaving the company. And that is when Eric, on the spot, offered me a position that changed my mindset about leadership. Which leader would do that in large corporates? That's something that you need to be very confident about. And the only thing I could say that landed was the different rationale of thinking. I could think differently. And so each one of you, don't stop your thinking. Let it flow. Don't hesitate. Bring your questions up. If they're not answered, fine. You may not get an answer at that point in time, but try to find an answer for yourself. Maybe you will learn that maybe that question was irrelevant. That is fine. But that is when I changed my profession, being the research analyst, to taking over the product manager role, to drive product management. And then I went through a series of learning. Subrata Majumdar, who was the head of products in India, taught me about how the customers and understanding their perception becomes very important to win the deal. Bobby Peacock taught me how to step into the global leadership positions. I took over the global product management portfolio role with a bigger responsibility, larger coverage. I could cover from all the way to US to China and across the world. And Jane Wright is someone who has great experience about commercial management. It's just not about building new products, building new services, delivering something and commercializing it. If you can't commercialize it as a leader, you're not good leader enough. Because at the end of the day, you can build Ferraris, but if you're not making profits out of it, what's the point? You cannot gain anything out of it. Companies don't want you to be there. At the end of the day, all that boils down into is profitability. And that is something that she taught me. And that ended the era of my association with Thomson. And then we ran into the financial crisis, the investment banking industry, information became more and more free to use. And that is when I decided, okay, let me explore different opportunities. I had 2 offers to take on, one from Amazon and one from Ericsson. And that is when I came across this wonderful gentleman, Prem Satpathy, who actually the position that I had applied for was for the business analyst. And At that point in time, business analyst was a very senior role in the industry. And when I applied for it, looking at the CV, we went through a series of interviews. And then that is when he put me across a different role, different position. And that is when I came across another person who changed, and he was the one, both Prem and Christopher were the one who hired me into Ericsson. When they explained about the position, Ericsson IT had no set practices of the portfolio management. And that is when I started my career in Ericsson. Since then, setting up the foundation for product portfolio management, driving the investment decisions, and helping the CIO office to take right investment decisions to invest in both technology and the future. Then I moved into Sweden back in 2015, and then had a new leader who taught me about the management consulting. Malin Goirid comes from a management consulting background, and management consulting is something that you see the content in the eyes of the receiver. If you are not good at presenting what your other side of the table wants to hear in the right fashion, with the right use of words, in the right context, at the right time, then you're not good consultant enough. And that is what I learned. And of course, not to forget Daniel Molander, the current leader and the person that I'm going to miss due to his change in the position, and he has taken up a new role. But he taught me something. Out of all these learnings, what is most important is being humble. And the points that I mentioned about empowering your team and enabling your team and respecting them for their knowledge, for their contributions, is something that I heavily learned with my leader, I would say, Daniel Molander. And the journey continues. So I have a new leader. I have worked with Tommy Borry for quite some time. He's been our unit head on and off. But I think that's the journey. Let's see how it goes. And something that I already see from Tommy that I learned is about handling the situations. If you're not good enough in handling the situations, then you're not prepared for the future. As I said, long story short, not to bore you further, leadership is not only applicable in the corporate life, it's applicable in every walk of life. So you choose where you want to learn and where you want to lead. I would like to shift the mindset in terms of the future. Let's look at how the next 10 years is going to change the industrial revolution. And in terms of the 5G, maybe you may have heard, Ericsson is the provider, because if we are talking whatever technology that we are using, the Internet of the things in the backend, maybe it could be Reliance, it could be Verizon, it could be Airtel or anyone. They are all our customers of Ericsson, and we provide them with the necessary ICT, information and communication technology, that they would use, including the towers to the 5G revolutionary services. You may have been using all the 4G and LTE services, but then it is going to change. The current prediction of the mobility report says that there will be over 3.5 billion 5G subscribers by 2026. And that's a huge shift. 5G, being the simplest, and you saw the Quest, is expected to be the fastest deployed mobile communication in the history. And it's forecasted to cover almost 60% of the world's population by 2026. I provided you with the links. You can take a look at it, but let's see how the mindset shifts in major countries, major continents. You can see that I highlighted India on an average from the current 14.6 MB of data GB of data that you are going to use, it will change to 40 GB per month per device. That's the amount of mobile data traffic that a smartphone, per smartphone. So on an average, a person has like a smartphone and also the computers and Wi-Fi and everything. This is just about how the data is going to be more important. The information is the new oil, but the ability to access that information across on your handheld devices is going to be the success factor. If you're not fast enough, and all the industries, I will come to you with the more insight on how the technology advancement is going to happen. But this is a snippet, what we foresee that how the world is going to change with a 5G revolution. Let's come to the top tech trends and also the options that we need to look into. This is very important for everyone, for students who will be aspiring for new jobs, the existing employees who are willing to change their professional focus, advance their careers. Not to delay further, the McKinsey Global Institute and Knowledge of the Plural Sites has compiled a list of 10 technologies. I went through a lot of checks and reports that people have published, different consulting houses about the technical trends. But this is something that I really believe in based on my personal experience and how it is going to change and lead the fourth industrial revolution. As I mentioned, you could understand from the mobility report of Ericsson, mobile internet, the interfaces, how you interact, the sensors, the format, the apps that each one of us are using on a day-to-day basis, right from morning till night, even how internet connectivity is going to grow, that will put an additional 4.3 billion people on top of the existing user base by 2025. So this is something that is inevitable. This will continue. Artificial intelligence. You may all have seen different AI tools, the machine learning technologies, the user interfaces, the bots, the cognitive technology that has helped you advance the productivity or even reduce all the mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks that you never liked. I think most of the corporates have been experiencing and investing in heavily, but this is only going to grow. This will not stop. Maybe there is a delay, there is a lower adaptability rates for various reasons, and there is also some repercussion about, okay, will the AI be overruling humans? No. Any technology that will be built by humans will be taking all the facts and considerations about the security aspects. And of course, if you're building a technology that is not secure enough, that is not really like covering you, empowering you to do something more, then that technology is not good for the society. So if you are inventors, if you are innovators, feel free to introduce and play around. But when you want to talk about scalability, be mindful about the repercussions of any artificial intelligence. It could lead to or damage someone's reputation, organization, or even hamper your own well-being. Then let's come to the augmented reality, the virtual life. I would like to quote here that Goldman Sachs is one of the major companies of the investment banking, and they are investing about 80 billion they have started with like a 7 billion investment right now, but they are after an industry which is 80 billion by 2025. 80 billion is a lot of money. It's huge. And that is where most of the companies will start investing their technology infrastructure and ecosystem, building the apps for their consumers and enterprises alike, so that there could be a setup for both the B2B and B2C scenarios. Cloud technology, nothing more to say. We all know what the cloud is. And it's been biggest of the big buzzwords, and it has been there right from the decade, but it is only going to evolve. I think what is going to change is maybe there will be a need for a lot of private infrastructure, private cloud setup due to the security and vulnerability possibilities that enterprises are facing. And for a lot of the other general use, the public cloud will continue to serve the purpose. You don't have to have your own data centers and operations and infrastructure management so that you can just get it up and running in no time with the cloud services like Google Cloud or Amazon or Azure from Microsoft. Then comes the Internet of Things. This is very interesting because machine-to-machine technology, and can you believe that today we have already 9 billion devices connected, and that is going to grow drastically to 50 to nearly 1 trillion devices in the next decade. That means your car will be talking to another car. That means you will be able to monitor and avoid road accidents. Your cars will be giving you more intelligent signals, or maybe the new industry evolution would be that already car manufacturers like Ericsson has had association with Volvo and some of the other manufacturers and equipment manufacturers to build sensors so that if there is a car approaching in the wrong direction, in the closest proximity, and there is a possibility of collision, how can we alert the drivers? How can we alert? And a lot of the companies already have implemented that. Tesla is one of the first movers to implement collision control. But then at the end of the day, it's the human, autonomous driving. And most of these vehicles will be deployed, and we should be the one who should be smart enough to use them wisely. You can't totally rely on the technology. You can't put the car on autopilot or maybe having things that you shouldn't be doing in the mobile unit or a car or any devices that you would be working with. But then you should be mindful enough that technology is for good, but it's not going to replace the human mind. Then comes the advanced robotics. You all have seen robotic implementations. There are robots everywhere. Maybe there are more bots in a company than the employees themselves. But that is going to change. It is going to advance into the other industrial revolution. For example, motors, hydraulics, material exchange, especially the supply chain, how it is going to change the processing of different material handling in the large setups is going to be a huge operational advancement in terms of the robotic processing. And even at Ericsson, we are heavily investing in the RPA and smart manufacturing so that we will be able to advance and make use of the best technology benefits in order to maintain, deliver, and keep up the timelines and deliver to the world the best of the technology that can be contributing towards the communication and the ICT area. Then, of course, what can be a better authenticator? When I say authenticator, in the old days, we used to have thumbprint. And I read about an article wherein earlier we learned as kids to do signatures, but those can be copied. But now the thumb impression, the face recognition, the voice recognition, or retina authentication are going to be the future authenticating mechanisms, wherein most of the security professionals feel that this is what almost like 70% plus companies are planning to adopt to, instead of the character, ASCII character-based password management. They would be authenticating, and devices will evolve so that there will be a huge change that is going to happen both in the ecosystem of the devices, how they are being built, what they are using as authentication mechanism, and also the software that would be enabling it. The access, the ID cards would change. It would be your retina display, maybe your face recognitions and voice that would be letting you get into the premises or having an access to certain systems applications. Let's come to the 3D printing. Maybe you may have seen the complete house or a small apartments built of 3D printed objects, and that could be the way for reusing some of these scarce resources that we have across the economy. And that is where we will be making use of the reuse of the material that has been destroyed due to the not so environmental friendly advancement that we have had in last 2 to 3 decades. And that is what is going to help us with an economic impact of 230 to 550 billion annually. That's the estimation that we are going to get from the supply chain, generating the revenue and helping a lot of companies, and also at the end of the day, human beings. Genomics, of course, what is the use of technology without entering the health sector? And a lot of the devices like Apple Watch, the Fitbit, or other Garmin or Samsung, a lot of these devices help you monitor your health, monitor the progress. Are you heading in the right direction? Because each one of us have learned that how the health has become the epitome. It has become the central point of the universe. If you're not healthy enough, due to various reasons, then you're not efficient. You can't continue to exist. And that could be the approaches that genomics will be taking in terms of the genetic engineering, following the DNA sequencing technologies, analytical approaches, and also it helps in producing a very healthy, eco-friendly agricultural production that reduces the dependency on the fossil fuels. And it is like extending the human life expectancy. And in 2018, there was where I could attend one of the Nobel conferences in Sweden here in the Nobel Museum. There was a study, and it was on the life expectancy, and the person who studied it and got a Nobel Award, they studied about the Asian life expectancy and the differences of food habits between the men and women, and also what kind of protein intake or what kind of the staple or the nutritions that we consume on a day-to-day basis, and how it is going to help or do not help if we don't go in the right direction. And it may even impact our biggest assets of some of the large thickly populated assets like humans, and they will be extinguished if we are not running in the right direction and not taking control of our health. And that is where technological advancement and these studies will give us a view on, okay, what are we entering into if we are not eating wise, acting healthy, and what will our future look like? More dependencies. So don't get glued to your screens, step out, get some exercises, and also be healthy is my personal humble request to each one of you. Blockchain, last but not the least, it is still evolving. I think majority of you know that, okay, Bitcoin has been, blockchain is like definitely known as Bitcoins. But I think apart from the virtual currency management or virtual currency exchange or transactions, majority of the companies, including Ericsson and large companies, are looking into how we can make use of this streamlining and securing the contracting and make use of this transactional capacity for the commercial use. And advancements are happening, but then it's not there yet. That's why. And of course, you need to keep in mind before any of these technology advancements will happen, there will be 3 streams that will be equally growing. One being the security. if you are having an interest in the security area and you want to develop your skills, any form of physical security, information security, or even the security comprising of different aspects related to human life, or environmental, or even the security of the planet or the life on the planet, please start preparing yourself. There will be a lot of new opportunities in that direction. There is a very less availability of the security professionals. There are a lot of institutions promoting, a lot of companies are hiring, including Ericsson on the security area. And also the next biggest would be the automation and AI, which will be focusing on a lot of new talents, because all the topics that we covered are revolving in that zone. And third thing being governance and compliance. Governance and compliance is also completely changing its approach, and the faster deliveries, the agile life, and overall quick decision making and fail fast mechanisms are really good. At the same time, they may be like bit challenging to the organizations. If we fail too fast and fail miserably, then it may have an impact on the brands, on the market, and also it may have non-compliance issues. So those areas are also going to be very high in demand. How the governance and compliance is going to adapt to the technological advancement. So these are the three areas that you may have to start focusing on. And of course, each one of you have access to the ocean of information. This is something that I put across based on the experience and the potential requirements that would be coming in different organizations coming across. That being said, I've spoken a lot. I would like to hand it over to Zakir, because what do you think that there could be a session without any interaction that is incomplete without interesting questions? As I said, I'm a fan of questions. I motivate myself to ask good, relevant questions. I would like to open the floor for questions, and also feel free to anyone who is interested. And I think most of my friends, colleagues in my network have joined me. And if you'd like to share some of your experience, have thoughts, or even please come forward and offer to do a different webinars on different sessions, so that I think, including me and the entire community here which has joined, will be able to benefit in terms of gaining knowledge and learning what is in it for us in the future. With that, I would like to hand it over to Zakir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we got a brief depth of ocean of information regarding the technology and leadership qualities. So thank you very much, sir, for your expertise, advice, and your suggestions. Now there are some questions floating towards us. So Mr. Dharamraj, Dr. Dharamraj has asked one question, sir. What way to improve the leadership quality in working place?
That's a very good question, Dharamraj. I think that's something that, as I mentioned, there is no easy way. It's very situational. I think in the current workplace, if I look at it, some of the practices that we are proposing is, first of all, many of us are going through a lot of personal challenges. Maybe it could be health, it could be health of the family members. And during the pandemic, one thing that has to be adopted for the betterment of everyone is, if you can give flexibility to your employees, to your team, and trust them. Don't give them unnecessary targets. Don't monitor, don't over rule them, or like almost continuously watch them like a security camera. That's not going to help. Give them flexibility, trust them. At the same time, it is a two-way trust. It's a two-way communication that needs to be open, and that will solve all the challenges. That will solve all the problems of work environment. And if you're not equipped equipping them enough, not just from providing the ecosystem, but also giving them the emotional confidence, the mental relief. Being, you can be anywhere, still deliver on your work. And of course, at the end of the day, one should be smart enough in contributing, and one should be smart enough in requesting the same. I hope that answers some of the quick practices that we can implement.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another one question from Assistant Professor. Two questions at a time. There's two questions from Professor Rijaswal. That is, one, how one can develop leadership from the beginning, and what are the challenges have to face by an individual initially?
Exactly. I think first of all, one should take out the fear. And there could be different approaches. Maybe you are fearless. If you're too fearless, maybe you're stepping on someone else's toes. To begin with, start in the smaller groups, maybe at home. Try to convince your family, try to convince on new challenges, new tasks that you would like to, you have never done before. Or try to do it in your own circle that you can hear back. And most important thing when you're a new leader is to listen. If you don't listen enough and choose wisely what you want to act on and what you don't want to act on, those are the first learning that one should do in the initial phases of leadership. And there are different ways that you can increase your knowledge base, because the minute someone will give you a command or attention is when you have the right level of knowledge, the skills, the capacity, interest, and of course, passion. If you blend all these things into one, then you can adapt, you can scale at large audience levels. If you are able to be confident, be bold enough, put your thoughts across in the right, pleasant way, and you will be the one that everyone wants you to lead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So another one question from Dr. Sunil. Respected speaker, what's your opinion on the priority given to 5G technology introduction in India, even though the kinds of it on mankind and nature is significant? Keeping aside the fact that majority of technology and innovations has both pros and cons?
That's a very good question. I'm glad that that question came up. I think any technology, as I mentioned, including 5G, there is a notion about, okay, there could be hazards or there could be a challenge. But I'll try to take two questions or like two parts of the question. Start with priority on the implementation of 5G in India is something that is purely dependent on the political and commercial setups in India. And we already have signed some of the deals with Bharti and others in order to provide the services. And implementation is dependent on the service providers, because what we can do is Ericsson can provide equipment and they're already distributing it to all the potential customers. At the same time, it needs to go through the change on the service provider, the policies, the government regulations needs to be kept in mind. There are different paradigm shifts that need to happen in terms of the adaptability, because 5G is something not just for end customers. It's just not about another mobile broadband technology. It's about, it's beyond just mobiles, because it's going to expand into the machine to machine. And that being said, the responsibility of us as the technology providers and the responsibility of the service providers becomes multifold in securing all aspects of regulatory, compliance, geopolitical challenges, and also the commercial interest. At the end of the day, if that is not evolving or co-evolution of the ecosystem is not happening, then it will drag on a little longer. But I think the need of the hour has been that due to maybe pandemic has helped us in terms of understanding the need for a stable technology. Internet has become the next water, I would say, because most of us, including our kids, are taking distant education. We are working remotely, and a stable internet connection for us to work and also the factories to run efficiently and have the produce and right from the food to all the fancy equipment that we want to have is becoming more and more critical. And behind that, I think 5G evolution, not just in India, but also across the world will be, and plans are detailed in the mobility report, and feel free to go into our publications on our websites for different plans on different implementation progressions.
Thank you, sir. And another one question from Dr. Ganesh Kakade. What is different between leadership and managership?
Very
Can
good
there-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can there
thank
be
you.
a
Go ahead,
question
please.
as future leadership or present of leadership?
I think that's something managing. I will try to answer it in more clear way, because this is a very delicate balance. Not every manager can be a leader, but every leader can try to manage something, maybe efficiently or inefficiently. And manager is more a title that they have a clear path, clear dedication in terms of what they need to achieve. Leadership is much broader in context. Maybe as a leader, you will be able to manage managers or even the team who are not managers, but then you will be able to influence them. Leadership is something that doesn't come with authoritative control. Management or manager is something that will have an authoritative control. I hope that answers. But in terms of the future, I think management is good, but I think every manager, I would personally request to continue and embark the journey of leadership. If you're not, then maybe, unfortunately, you will not continue to be a manager or leader anymore in the future setup.
Thanks, sir. There is another one question. So what is the best thing which keeps you motivated to work for a company?
It's, I think I'm a human being. I don't think it's the personal reflection, but what's in it for you at the end of the day? Do you, personally, if I reflect on, if I have accomplished something for a day and there is a challenge ahead for next day, and at least you are having a clarity of thought of what you're going to contribute to, and how, that is what motivates me. And it's a different individual personas. For some, it could be the economic benefits. For some, it could be the recognition that they get. For some, it could be the livelihood that they could be having their family dependent on them. But at the end of the day, motivation is something that is volatile in nature. And as far as you don't decide and don't take hasty decisions, at the same time, don't drag too much into a phase wherein you feel completely demotivated. That is when you need to be able to access the interest and keep yourself going. And at least for me, I'm a self-motivated person. And at the end of the day, if you're not a leader of your own career or leader of your own life, then what's the point in practicing leadership anywhere else on anyone else? I hope that answers, but I think that's something that is very individualistic. It varies. It's very difficult to say that what exactly motivates the person. It depends. It depends what life cycle you are in, what phase you're going through personally and professionally. So it varies.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is another one question. Can you say how the pandemic has impacted the agriculture and how we can develop that agriculture in this pandemic? There is a question.
I think, unfortunately, most of that has been forgotten. That's my personal view. But how we can definitely help is something that I think genomics and one of the points that I mentioned about a lot of agricultural produce. I think I would say, if I'm not wrong, the 2/3 of the agricultural produce, like the hard efforts, the sweat, the blood of our agriculturalists, the farmers, that is being wasted. Because at the end of the day, from the field, the soil, to the mouth, you are wasting in the journey almost 2/3 of the product. 2/3 of the produce is wasted. In the Nobel conference that I attended back in 2016, the topic was about your plate, your planet, and the food of the future. There have been a lot of efforts in terms of reducing the food waste, reusing some of the waste. I can give you one example. At that point in time, because one of the famous companies in the US, in order to produce the beans and the carrots, the farmers from certain countries, like they had a very fertile land and they grew it like beyond the size of the packets that were produced. When it went into the processing unit, they were extra cutting them. Basically, that means if the carrot has grown, or like say the bean has grown extra long than the pouch that has been handed over to the packing unit, they have wasted more edges because to fit that within the packet. And that's like stupidity. And there are like so many such examples that how the knowledge or the lack of knowledge of what the packing industry, the supply chain goes through, and rather having an adaptability to that, why the waste has increased so much. That is going to help us with the information that is readily available on hand. Immediately the plant manager or the procurement team can change the dimensions of the packaging. They would be able to provide multi-dimensional sizes for packaging. And not just this, the awareness of the food. For example, Electrolux and a lot of the new companies are heavily investing in terms of giving you a notice or indication in terms of how much of a food is left in your refrigerator, and is the milk going to expire, or also giving you a notification in terms of what is not there based on your calendar schedule, or even giving you the health of the food. And this is only when it comes to the consumers, but also there needs to be a huge technological advancement that will enable people to make use of the right fertilizer choices. Because of the commercialization, because of the industrial revolution, there have been cases where most of the farmers have not been taught in the right direction. They have been commercialized. They have been wrongly guided. Maybe it's time for us to develop some of those and reduce the food waste. Then automatically the challenge of the agriculturists and meeting the two ends, from the farmers to the consumers, with least middlemen and dependencies or wastage, would be reduced if the technology is rightly used. I would like to quote some of the examples here. There is a company in Sweden called Karma. and a couple of the CIOs and who have started, the CEOs of that, had approached me after this Nobel conference, and they had we have exchanged some of the dialogues, and they have started helping the people. For example, if you have a large food chain and you have the packed food that is going to expire in 2 days or 3 days, or based on the expiry life, what they have done is they have deployed different Karma refrigerators and the self vending machines, the vending machines wherein you can scan, you can just pick it up yourself, and then they are promoting so that they will be able to avoid this food wastage. Otherwise, it will be just dumped, it will be thrown. Rather, they built an app, it shows where the food, and then they use a very intelligent code. I think there could be many such companies across the world, but something that save food so that you can live longer is something that I remember that they use. And that's a very pleasing message, so that you don't have to waste more food. If you are planning to buy something, and if you would like to make use of this kind of idea across, especially in India or other locations, maybe that is something, because a lot of the people produce a lot of food, but then they don't consume it the way they want. So plan accordingly, right from home, try to save it. Don't overcook and waste it. That's one message. At the end of the day, technology is definitely going to help. And there are not many advancements. It's also a bit of an irony, because most of the R&D money comes from the large commercial setups who would want to pump in more money in the R&D for making more commercial benefits. Unfortunately, agriculture is something that has been ignored, but I think soon we will realize the importance of the food and the future for ourselves.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another last few questions. So in brief, you can answer, sir. One is from, again, Dr. Ganesh, sir. Can there be a present or future of the leadership?
Is that it? Is there any further question on that, or?
Yeah, that much. And another one question is from Gautami, madam. How leadership is different from authority, in short? And the last one is how to prove yourself loyal towards the institution. These are the three last questions, sir, that you please answer it in short.
I will try to take them quickly. And in terms of the present or future of leadership, the present is something that we have been practicing with physical appearance of leadership. Future is they will not be able to see you. Maybe your email is something that is going to be important, your virtual appearance. Maybe they're not giving attention to you when you're speaking. So improving the patient's levels, understanding, and not always using the authoritative control that you have been given, trying to reach them more, treat them friendly, more treat them as a part of the team and not just a delivery unit, then that is what is going to help us to change the present and future of leadership.
Okay, sir. Then how to prove yourself as a loyal towards the institution? This is one.
Yes. Loyalty is something that is perceived. If each one of you feel contented that you are giving your best, you are not using any unethical practices, you are delivering much more beyond what you have been expected to deliver, that shows your loyalty. And my personal belief is that if you're delivering something, deliver that with a whole heart. Don't expect returns for everything, every pie for the delivery that you have made, apart from what you have been expected to deliver. That completely changes the loyalty. And it's I believe in a saying that trust factor is something that needs to be gained, and loyalty comes with it.
Thank you, sir. And the last question, how leadership is different from authority?
In terms of the authority, person believes that, okay, if you're head of a unit, they have a notion or have had a notion that if they ask for something, people will deliver it. Maybe they will deliver it. And that is what is needed. That's what they are employed for. But in terms of the leadership, leadership is beyond authoritative control. You don't have to have an authority to be a leader. You can take on steps. You can act in terms of the emergencies. How many of you have seen taking leadership roles in the pandemic when someone needs in your society, in your apartments or in your colony that they would be needing help? People come, take leadership automatically in the crisis management, in the situations where there is no authority that has come in. Maybe take an example of accidents. You don't have an authority, but you will still take the role of leading, helping, and saving lives. You don't expect only doctors who are having authoritative control to come and handle the situation, or police or other regulatory authorities. I think that is where I would personally feel the difference of taking leadership doesn't mean that you need to go after the title or authority or the accountability aspects. You can lead and definitely take consent, work with the authoritative person, and you don't run your own show. So it should be a joint effort. There should be a meeting between or the collaboration between authoritative, control-oriented person and the leadership. And if it is the same person, there is no doubt that will be a fantastic team or organization or a setup.
Okay, thank you, sir, for a wonderful interaction session of the question and answers. So without much ado, I request Dr. M.M. Maulvi, sir, for the presidential remarks. Over to you, sir. Dr. M.M. Maulvi, sir.
Thank you very much, Zakir, sir. Distinguished Chairman of Anjuman-e-Islam, Janab Sanoor Sahab, Honorable OB and EB members of Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli, my friend Dr. Ansari, revered principal of the college, Sayyid Feroz sir, Yatnatti sir, Chillur sir, my colleagues, Professor Sheikh, Ejaz Khan sir, Sadiq sir, and Zakir sir, and my revered delegates. Indeed, I am supremely delighted to learn that a very, very large number of delegates have participated in this webinar, both nationally as also internationally, to listen to our versatile student, PRAVEEN JOSHI, a great son of a heralded parents, PRAVEEN JOSHI. It was indeed an occasion, it was an experience to listen to our versatile student, PRAVEEN JOSHI. His presentation was quite lucid, analytical, and impressive. The organizing team presents the best compliments to PRAVEEN. During the course of your deliberations, PRAVEEN, you have touched upon the point of IQ and EQ, that is the intelligence quotient and the emotional quotient. And you have wisely suggested that you should develop a coveted combination between IQ and EQ. But I think IQ and EQ will grow fertile unless and until There is what is that PQ? It is the passion quotient. I am the firm believer in this fact. It is the passion which is the driving force which can transform all our dreams into concrete realities. Praveen, you are under the impression that leadership, it is an art, but I think as a student that it is more a skill, and a skill which is loaded with empathy and not with sympathy, because ultimately it is the empathy, objectivity, which should be the point of centrality. I am highly appreciative of the selection of your topic, future leadership and technology. Prepare yourself for the future. I really appreciate the selection of the topic. You're touching about the point about the leadership with futuristic vision. When you were touching upon that point, I was reminded of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Atal Bihari Vajpayee sir, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Speaking about Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, indeed we are fortunate to receive him in our campus to celebrate the 100 years of our Anjuman-e-Islam Hubli. We had organized a question-answer session where priority was given to the students. And one of the students asked a wonderful question. He said, "Sir, I don't want to stay in India." Then suddenly, Abdul Kalam sir asked, "Why?" "Because India is a highly corrupt nation." Then the answer that he floated was quite appreciative. Revered former President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam says, there are only two agencies who can eradicate corruption from the land of India. One, the mother, the first teacher of a child. And the second one is the primary school teacher. When I read about him, at an early age, he developed the concept of building a developed India by 2020. And when I have gone through that book, he has coordinated different sectors of the economy to build up a great and glorious India. And that should be the vision of a leader. Then Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was very much impressed by former Soviet Russia and their 7 years planning. He was instrumental in introducing 5 years planning in India and developed a wonderful concept of building a socialistic pattern of society, where every citizen of India is getting an opportunity of equality to build up his or her personality and also contributes toward the development of Indian economy. He is the person who floated the concept of building a self-reliant economy. Then speaking about Atal Bihari Vajpayee sir, he was the firm believer in the fact that if at all we want to develop India, we should develop cordial relationships with our neighboring countries. Hats off to you, sir. Then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who was a firm believer in education, he was instrumental in building Muslim Aligarh University. And he was the firm believer in the fact it is only education, it is education alone which can not only break the shackles of our slavery, in the political slavery, but also it can build up a great and glorious India. So this is my isle. Have a nice time, my friends.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presidential remarks. Now, at the last, I would like to ask Assistant Professor Mr. Ejaz Khan Balari to propose the vote of thanks. Ejaz, sir, to you.
Thank you, Mr. Zakir, sir. At the outset, it's my very much honor and privilege to be a part of this international webinar on leadership and technology. First and foremost, very sincere thank to Almighty Allah, who has blessed us to organize such a wonderful, successful program today. Next, I would like to extend my very deep sense of gratitude to our Anjuman Islam's Hubli, Karnataka, India. The special thank to our President of Anjuman Islam Hubli, Ali Janab Al-Haj, Muhammad Yusuf Saunur Sahab, all the office bearer, education board members, and other members of Anjuman Islam Hubli, their efforts to make this function very grand success. Thank you, all of you. Now it's time to thank the energetic personality, none other than Mr. PRAVEEN JOSHI, sir, with the due respect. I listened to you third time. First time it was when you visited our institution. In seminar hall, I was there. And I stood in the first row. I would raise so many questions there. And I received very humble answers from you regarding the management. Even I am a management student. I have done my MBA in finance from Chetan Business School, doing as an assistant professor under the leadership of Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir. And even I'm a part of this institution and under the leadership of Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir and his entire team. I'm also learning, like I want to be like you, internationally, globally, whatever you spoke, I really appreciate. It was really marvelous. And even I try to inculcate whatever things you have said today. So indeed, I am on cloud 9, I can say, cloud 9. I cannot express my happiness. And even Maulvi sir, he shed a light on correlated with his economical aspects and jargons, and it is nothing but the combination of your talk, and it is 100% completed leadership and technology as well. And you spoke so wonderfully, lots of global challenges. If you want to be any particular global leader, we must have certain things. You said language is a very much important barrier in every country, not only in American continent and other Europe and other Asian continents. In all our globe, leadership is very important than management. I believe that management or manager is part of leaders, right? If I'm not right, please you may mention after my vote of thank, because I'm thanking you by your each of point you contributed. You said languages, local language is very essential and important to communicate and make people understand whatever you are communicating and delivering your task to them to work. Right. So like you said, common language, it is also plays very important, crucial role in the development of any individual's life. And the success or failure depends upon the two major areas like languages and culture. Culture is one of the area where people beliefs matters a lot, right? Yeah. So likewise you said about mindset. Yes, of course, the mindset, the change of mindset as and when required, we have to change it. Like a technology, if we are unable to change ourselves, however, technology changes. Otherwise, the technology itself changes from our market. So technology may kick us off from the market. So we have to change ourselves, however, technology changes. And you touch upon an empathic personality and key skills, strategic and techno. Likewise, the right direction, we should be in our right direction so that we'll achieve our vision, mission, and goal objective in time. If we exceed our time to achieve the vision objective, it is nothing but we are not at all reaching our time, because once we have 1 year time to reach at a particular place or destination, we have to reach within that set target. If we exceeds, it doesn't mean to having a vision, mission, and goal in our life. What you believe, what I understood by your communication today, my resourceful person, PRAVEEN JOSHI sir. If I'm saying anything wrong, I apologize, sir. I apologize.
No, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much for wonderful remarks, Aizaz and Maulvi sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's from my very deep and bottom of heart, on behalf of Maulvi sir, on behalf of my President of Anjuman Islam, Muhammad Yusuf Saunur Saab, and his entire team of office bearer, education board member, executive council, hospital board members, and other members directly or indirectly connected with Muhammad Yusuf Saunur Saab, and our my colleagues, okay, Professor Zakir sir, Shafi sir, Irfan sir, and our main campus. They are the leaders under whom we are learning it. Special thank to our administrator. He's the great supporter for us in every walk of our life. I would mention his name, Dr. M.F. Ansari sir. And I must take the names of coordinators of Dr. S.M. Chillur, IQAC coordinator, and Dr. N.S. Yatnati, NAC coordinators, who always support us to make every function, not only this international, but we had so many events, so many competition. I was the part of national quiz competition. I'm just forgetting by listening your talk and communication.
No problem.
Lots of supports we are getting from our colleagues, our higher authorities, our leaders, I believe. Now I would mention. Okay, last but not the least, I would extend my thank to each one of the participants participated across the world, I believe. Okay, maximum of country participated. I have been watching the list from various country. The participant participated apart from their busy schedule to listen. Our very great resourceful person, PRAVEEN JOSHI sir from Sweden, and all the participants. Thank you very much for joining us and patiently listening. Our resourceful person from long years. Thank you so much from my bottom of heart. On behalf of even PRAVEEN sir, I thank each one of you for your sparing valuable and precious. Thank you so much. So I hand over to PRAVEEN JOSHI.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
sir.
Aizaz sir and Maulvi sir, and each and every one who have been making this event successful, for patiently listening to me and sharing your views, wonderful questions, and also how Dr. M.M. Maulvi sir connected it back to his tremendous experience and expertise in teaching leadership for each one of us. I would like to be helpful, and feel free to reach me if you have any questions, if you need guidance. I am always there to support our prestigious institute and each one of you. You can reach me anytime. I am always reachable, and just drop me a message and you will be able to get possible answers. If I don't know, maybe I will guide or redirect you to the right persons who could help you or clarify your questions. That would be my contribution to the society.
Thank you very much, PRAVEEN sir, for this wonderful session what we have proceeded and conducted. And I would like to thank all the participants from around the world that they have participated in this webinar. And within 15 days, you will get your certificates of this participation certificate of this international webinar. And because there is a huge number of participants, so daily there will be only 100 certificates that we are going to provide. And PRAVEEN JOSHI sir, please make me the host. You are the host now.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the each members who have contributed in this success of this webinar, that without your cooperation, it will not be successful. So Praveen Joshi sir, thanks for your precious time that you have given to us, and with your humble cooperation, whenever we have troubled you, you have supported us in a very soft manner. So I thank all the management members, my teachers, my principal, administrator, degree principal Feroz sir, then Chillur sir, Yatnati sir, and all the EB, OB members, everybody for their cooperation. And special thanks Joshi sir for his sparing the special time with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Appreciate. Thank you very much, Zakir sir, for holding and organizing the event.